Okay, well, I have the top of the hour, so we'll go ahead and get started. Hi there, my name is Megan Raymond. I'm the Senior Director for Programs and Membership here at WCET. And if this is your first webcast with us, we're thrilled to have you here. Please be sure to add any of your questions to the Q&A. A lot of times we get a pretty active discussion in the chat and the questions get lost. So post those there and then we'll get to those as we can. And we will share a link to the resources in the slides. And you have signed up for our second topic in the policy series, regular and substantive interaction. So I'm looking forward to exploring all of the issues with you, and you should have received a resource guide. If you need access to that, we'll make sure to include the link as well. I wanted to acknowledge our captioning sponsor, Vitac. And again, if you have any questions, enter them into the Q&A box and we'll be keeping an eye on that. We'll try and hold questions till after the presentations, but if we need to jump in, we certainly will. Today, our moderator is someone you're probably all very familiar with, Cheryl Dowd, who's the Senior Director of Policy Innovations here at WCET. And I'm going to go ahead and let Cheryl take it away from there.
Thank you very much, Megan. It's really nice to be with you all today. I'm looking forward to this presentation about regular and substantive interaction. Many of you may know that really Russ and Van have become the experts in this. It's those four little words in the middle of the distance education definition in the federal regulations that really is complicated. And we know that Van and Russ have been writing about this phrase, this term, for since 2016 or maybe possibly before that, but we know that they've got a Frontiers post that they submitted in 2016 that still cracks the top 10 every year as an important post that people wish to read. I do want to point out that SAN was able to crack the top 10 with them this year, and we were honored to do that. But I would like to turn this over to Russ and Van because they will give us general overview, but we're really looking forward to getting to your questions as well. So I'm going to turn this right over to Russ and Van.
Van, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? Then I'll go with it.
Sure. My name is Van Davis, and I am a policy and planning consultant for WCET and principal at Foglam Consulting. And if Cheryl said, have been working with Russ around this issue for, it seems like a very, very, very long time.
And it's great to have Van as a fellow person who can get down and be nerdy with this sort of issues. So we'll go off and be nerdy today. And I'm Russ Poulin, Executive Director of WCET, and I've done a lot of policy stuff with WCET, and also was on the most recent negotiated rulemaking subcommittee that worked on this issue. And so let's go ahead and then we'll do some background on this and on this issue and why is it out there? What is this about, and where did this come from? Is that there was a lot of, going way back to last century in the 80s and 90s, that there was a lot of financial aid fraud that was going on around correspondence education, where some fraudsters were essentially setting up courses and were doing very little for students beyond that. And so there was distance education. This weird thing was starting to happen and starting to grow, and they wanted to provide aid for that. And so in 1992, there's a federal definition of distance education, which included these four little words: regular and substantive interaction. And that was a key phrase in terms of trying to delineate between what sort of course was a correspondence course and what sort of course was a distance ed course. Now, there's other factors that are in there as well, but this was a big one. And so what? So what if it's correspondence or distance ed? Like I said, it has to do with that aid thing, and that if you as an institution, your overall institution, that you no longer are eligible to offer federal financial aid if 50% of your courses are declared to be correspondence courses, or 50% of your students that the enrollments are decided to be are declared to be correspondence as well. So it's really, there's pretty high threshold, but as we're getting more and more into distance ed, that gets to be an issue. okay, that's fine. We have that phrase. Unfortunately, what happened is that it was never super well defined. There were sorts of definitions and guidance that came out about parts of it. And I just put in the chat that there was something that Van and I wrote a few years ago, where we looked to see, okay, well, let's take all the documents we could find and findings against institutions and dear colleague letters that are put out by the department and say, let's see what we can put together on that. And then we came up with that, which was our best look at how it was defined at the time, how they were implementing it, and how that would work. And so that's been referenced several times. And so fast forward to 2019, remember that's 27 years after the first one. We actually have finally in negotiated rulemaking. I was on a subcommittee for that. Negotiated rulemaking is a process by which you can update rules and regulations from the Department of Education, others, and it had several goals to better define compliance, look at the role of instructor, we'll talk about that. Also to how do we put in things like competency-based education and adaptive learning. And then also the department wanted to make this tie that with the accrediting agency, and we'll get back to that, where what the accreditor is working more closely with the institution, and that there should be more faith in what the accreditor says in all of this. And today we're going to talk about definitions that came out of that rulemaking, and that will go into effect in July 1st of this year. And just a bit of a caution that, again, remember, this is we're as good academics, we want to think about interaction, we think about it in good pedagogical terms, but we need to sort of put that aside for the moment, think about how are they thinking about it in compliance terms that we have here. So with that, I'm going to actually get to the slide that we're on here and talk about a couple of these things that we looked at. In that second column there is really going back to what we saw as what is now the current rules, or the rules that we think have been used in the last several years, and then what we're going to see that's going to start in July with those regulations. So with interaction, let's start with that. And this was one of the ones that always drove me crazy, was that interaction only counted if it was initiated by the instructor. So if the instructor was giving a lecture or participating in a discussion, or if it was putting out an assessment or starting a discussion, doing any of these things, it had to be initiated by the instructor. So to me, that's not interaction. Interaction is unfortunately not what we're doing at the moment, but it's back and forth between faculty and students, or among students and all that. And so those were the only things that counted. Well, what we see in the new regulations, if you look at that there's still, for most things, it's still activities that are initiated by the instructor, that there is one spot when we get down into the regular definition, down there where we were trying to expand this out to take into account competency-based and others, and on that, where there is some leeway for at the request of the student. And so we have that. So not a lot of change, a little bit of progress, not a lot of change on that. Second one, instructor. Well, okay, why was that an important one to try to get to? Well, you all may remember a few years ago, there was the Western Governors University had a finding from the Department of Education's Office of Inspector General, said that, by the way, we don't like how you did this with regular and substantive interaction. Please repay us $1 billion. It was $700 million at the time, but by the time to get through it, it would have been $1 billion. And probably most of you around the table here do not have that in your back pocket, nor does your institution. So that was kind of a big deal. And what we see there is that when Van and I wrote that document a few years ago, that blog post that I put out there, everything that we saw that was prior to the WGU finding was that the instructor is that as long as they meet the accreditation standards, that was good. Well, WGU was meeting Northwest standards, their accreditor, meeting the standards for the instructor. They have a different type of model where they're using several different, they're doing some people for delivery, some people for advising, using some people for assessment. And so it's kind of split up. And the Office of the Inspector General didn't go for that, even though the accreditor did. And so we tried to make it more explicit in the new rules that it really is that there's a section in there that for the purposes of this definition, an instructor is an individual responsible for delivering course content who meets the qualifications for instruction established by the institution's accrediting agency. Remember, I kind of had it in several things before about making this tie with the accrediting agency, that really they're the ones that work with you. We'll see that theme come up again and again where there's reliance on the accreditation agency. And this was really tried to be embedded in here where it makes it harder for auditors to come in and say, well, we don't like what the accreditor did, that we're trying to cement that. With that, I've given you some basis with this here, and then Van's going to take it from here. Van, go ahead.
So I'll spend just a couple of minutes. Oh, actually, if we could get you to go back, Megan. I'm going to spend a couple of minutes here talking about the definition of substantive and the definition of regular. So in the old definition, substantive was considered anything that is of an academic nature. And you might ask, well, what's of an academic nature? And that would be a really good question because there was very little clarity about that. One of the things that the new definition tries to address is provide a little bit more specificity about what is of an academic nature. And it has a list of activities, providing direct instruction, and that term direct is probably important. Assessing or providing feedback on a student's coursework, providing information or responding to questions about the content of a course or competency. And here's where we said interaction is mostly initiated by the instructor, but there's some leeway. This would be one of those places where there would be some leeway. Instructors can respond to students' questions, and that would be considered substantive interaction. Also considered substantive would be facilitating a group discussion regarding the content of a course or competency. And then the final one really speaks to what Russ was just talking about with a reliance on accreditors. The final example of substantive interaction is, and I'm going to quote here directly, other instructional activities approved by the institutions or programs accrediting agency. So again, we see this codification of a reliance on the accreditors that we did not see in the previous definition. And then finally, we have oftentimes had this confusion over what constituted regular interaction. Just as there was some confusion about, well, what's substantive, then there was probably even more confusion about what's regular. And previously, the department's Office of Inspector General basically tried to define regular by saying, well, it's regular, which was less than helpful. So what we have is a new definition of regular that actually tries to define what it is. And there's two parts to this new definition of regular. The first part is that interaction has to be predictable and scheduled. And that's really important. It has to be predictable and scheduled. And then the second part is in addition to that. So in addition to the interaction being predictable and being scheduled, in addition to that, it has to, and again, I'm going to quote directly here, monitor the student's academic engagement and success and ensure that an instructor is, and here's the really important language, instructor is responsible for promptly and proactively engaging in substantive interaction with the student when needed on the basis of such monitoring or upon request by the student. So it has to be predictable and scheduled. And then the instructor has to be promptly and proactively engaging in this substantive interaction, either preemptively or upon request by the student. So two pieces to that regular definition, predictable and schedule, and focusing on tracking and intervention. Can I get you to go to the next slide there, Megan? So if you're scratching your head now or asking yourself, how am I going to remember this? we've got a couple of resources that we think will be helpful for you. The first is a playbook that WCET, with support from Every Learner Everywhere and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, created over the summer. And it is a policy playbook on compliance for digital instruction in response to COVID-19. It covers accreditation, it covers financial aid eligibility, state authorization and licensure, course level regulations, regular and substantive interaction, and student civil rights. And specifically what that playbook does is it looks at the department, as you know, as you may remember, has provided some waivers and exemptions for some policies because of COVID-19, but not all policies. And so what the policy playbook does is it goes through and it clarifies where there are waivers in place and exemptions in place, and then where there are not waivers and exemptions in place. So that's one resource that we think is really helpful as we talk about regular and substantive interaction and several other policies that are related to it. The second is a link that you've gotten several times now, and maybe I can get Megan or Kim to also drop that down into the chat. But it is a policy brief specifically on regular and substantive interaction, this new definition of regular and substantive interaction that goes into effect July 1st of this year. And that is, it's just a 5-pager that includes the definition of regular and substantive interaction. And then what we've seen is some frequently asked questions that comes up. And we've got a direct link to that in Mix, and Kim's going to be putting that in the chat as soon as she has a chance to do that. So with that in mind, what we were really hoping that would happen today is that we could give you this sort of quick overview of regular and substantive interaction, but really spend the rest of this session in answering your questions and having a conversation about this. So I'm going to turn this over to Cheryl, and she will lead us in the rest of this.
Great, thank you, Van. So they've done a wonderful job in laying our foundation here, and I do see that we have we're starting to get questions into the Q&A. So if you see the Q&A section, could you add your questions there? I'm going to start with a really basic question here. Why should institutions care about regular and substantive interaction?
Well, I think regular and substantive interaction is the department's big stick. You care because if they determine that you have not been, that your distance education doesn't follow regular and substantive interaction, then it's no longer distance education, it's correspondence education. And that's more than just a matter of semantics for the department. As Russ pointed out, if 50% of your courses or 50% of your students are enrolled in correspondence education, then they're not eligible for the same amount of federal financial aid, and the department's going to make you pay it back, which is the problem that Western Governors found itself in before the then Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos, said that she was not going to follow the Inspector General's recommendations. And so WGU got off the hook. But it's a pretty big stick if you're not following this definition of regular and substantive interaction. You really open yourself up to that danger of having to repay Title IV federal financial aid. And that's, you know, and that includes Pell, having to repay Pell aid. And it's you as an institution that's on the hook, not the students.
Yeah, and if I can add on to that too, is that you remember I had the 50% rule up there before, where it was 50%. You know, you need 50% of your courses to be declared correspondence before you start losing aid. And some of you thinking, well, that's, you know, we're way off from that. But I think we're going to see some institutions who may start teetering into that as we're getting into the remote and hybrid and high flux, and that, you know, how does that fit into all this? And I think especially probably less with that. But I remember back in the Obama administration that there was some interest about starting to apply this definition for federal financial aid purposes for things like competency-based education courses or adaptive learning courses, because of the nature of it and the timing of that. And so suddenly, if you start, okay, we have online courses, and if we're not doing well on those, and some of these others, if they start getting in, you could see where you know, you could be at risk if you're not paying attention to this of your by not paying attention to it in a variety of areas, suddenly that could add up to hit that 50% mark.
So if I'm hearing you all correctly, we are also talking about some ambiguity in terms of the language that was involved there. And so it gets confusing, and some of our questions here that are coming in have to do with that clarity of language and definitions. So we had a question here. So if responding to students is substantive, how does this qualify for predictable and scheduled?
Well, I think you need to separate those out and then go. I don't think they go across them, so that you need to look within the wording for substantive, and it's really two of those things that you need to do. That you are doing something where you are interacting, that you're responding to students, and so you are looking. So if you think of this as several different sub-criteria within one criteria, that you look at that. And so are you doing assessments? Are you doing direct instruction? Are you doing responding to students' questions? That you're looking at that, and then now pull out and then regular. Are you doing things regularly? And that really is getting back to much more of this idea of they're very keen on much of this is still stuck in the interaction coming from the instruction, initiated by the instructor. And so they're really keen on seeing something where you have a syllabus or in a predictable, so that you can tell that, maybe you don't meet a week or you don't do something in a week, but that's set out in the syllabus, and maybe you have a good reason that they're working on a project for that week or something, that when you get back to them. Or that you have something that something's due every Wednesday, or there's a quiz every Wednesday. That's a predictable sort of thing, that they want to see, that sort of thing. So you need to show that you meet the substantive, and there's those parts there. You need to show that you meet the regular, and there's those parts to that. How would you fix my answer, Van? Let's see.
Well, I would just reiterate that that definition of substantive lists those subparts, but they're not expecting you to do all of those subparts. You have to be doing at least two of them. And so if the only interaction that your faculty are having is response to students' questions, you don't need to worry about if that meets regular and predictable, because that doesn't matter, quite frankly. You're not meeting the substantive part of the definition. So it's a little dance. I think of the Texas two-step a little bit. It's a little bit here, a little bit there, in order to come up with with being in the definition and being in compliance with the definition. But I think what I would really emphasize here is what Russ has just said. The committee made it very clear, and the department, I think, has made it clear that what they are really interested in is, again, that the interaction has to be substantive in nature, but that there is a predictable component to it. And that students know what that predictable component is. This really has to do with students. The regular, I think, piece of the definition really has to do with students being able to know what to expect and when to expect it in the course. If they choose to not take advantage of that, that's their choice. The department, in the explanation that it published with the final regulations, actually says it doesn't really matter if a student takes advantage of these predictable and scheduled interaction opportunities. What matters is that the institution is offering predictable and scheduled interaction opportunities.
And just a quick add on to that, it doesn't mean that everything has to be in the syllabus.
Exactly.
Everything has to be predictable. It just means to be that you put enough forethought in, and that you haven't, I don't know what enough is, but you're doing something throughout the course, so that you're showing that there's opportunities for the student to interact.
Great. Could we have just a quick confirmation here that this term regular and substantive interaction is part of the distance education definition, in the federal regulations. So this does not apply to face-to-face classes. Am I correct in that?
Well, it is in the distance ed. It is in the distance ed definition, and it's supposed to be applying to distance ed. It is not supposed to apply to face-to-face courses. However, what I said, what we were seeing near the end of the Obama administration was there was a move to start applying it to adaptive learning and some competency-based education. And when we wrote and asked for clarification about that they said, well, there should be this sort of interaction should just be applied everywhere. And so I thought we got to go back and forth about, well, but it's in the distance ed definition. It's not in for the face-to-face. What this administration will do in terms of applying it outside of distance education, I think is unknown at this point. I'm just saying that was something that some within the department were trying to do in that administration. Van, do you want to comment?
I think you covered it, Russ.
Okay.
Well, since you mentioned that, Russ, about communicating with the department, how does the process work to request from the Department of Education any clarifications in language, and how would institutions, on what institutions should do to comply? How can they have their voices heard or ask questions?
Yeah, I think that there's really two different ways to do that here, and one is that maybe three different ways. Individually as an institution or yourself, that what you can do is you can say, oh, look at this. What does predictable mean, or what does direct instruction mean? How do I know the word, but how practically am I supposed to demonstrate that I've met that criterion, and that you can actually write to the Department of Education and say, we would like clarification about that. If you do it individually, make sure that you're clear that it's individual and that you're not doing it on behalf of your institution, because we don't want any of you to lose your jobs. I want you to stay around. The other is that let us know. We're putting together a letter that we're going to put in on behalf of WCET members on some of these issues that as we're doing these presentations, that we're hearing some of the same things over and over again that we need clarification on. And so we'll do that. And then we hope this is one thing where the Trump administration was not doing a lot in terms of guidance. I would imagine that this administration will be much better on answering such questions. So.
Great, thank you. And I put in the chat, we had checked into who was the person that the department had indicated was a point person who could accept questions. Wonderful. Okay, so you were bringing up HighFlex a little bit ago, and so are HighFlex courses exempt from this? And the person is pointing out it would be difficult to identify a true distance student in a HighFlex course.
Do you want to try that, Van? Let's see. Right.
I think this is one of those places where the department is not clear. I would not think that HighFlex falls into this, because HighFlex is not distance education. That would be my interpretation, but I don't think that the department is very clear on this, and that this is one of those areas where there probably needs to be some inquiry as to how the department would handle HighFlex. Russ, what's your thinking on this?
Well, there's HighFlex, and there's HighFlex, and there's what the department thinks. So let me parse that out. So HighFlex, as originally designed, was something where the student could opt never to show up, or opt to show up every time, or opt to do something in between. I could see the department declaring that a distance education opportunity, because you have students who never show up in person. Now HighFlex in the remote instruction in some places was meant to be that it was this sort of pod thing, where we put all the students in pods A, B, and C, and pod A shows up, and Monday and Pod B shows up and all that. And so that's coming to where there's actually face-to-face requirements there. The problem with that is if just was in another discussion this week where a lot of those students aren't showing up. And so again, would the department say, say that, oh, that's really a distance ed course. And then beyond that, so I'm going through the definitions of what we have. I do wonder though, but that this, I think Van is correct, absolutely correct that this has not been defined. It's a question that we should ask, but I could envision a world where they decide that something where, and I don't know what the amount would be, some significant amount is at a distance, that they would declare that a distance course. Do not take me as that's the answer, but I could envision a world where the department would do that. But as Van said, we don't have that answer at the moment, and that's just where we are.
And one of the challenges that I think we're running into here is that the pace of pedagogical change far outstrips the pace of policy change. And remember, definitionally, to some extent, this is not to some extent, this is very much linked to the definitions in the Higher Education Act. We've not seen a reauthorization in the Higher Education Act for, what are we going on now, Russ? 15, 16 years? 12 years?
2008.
Yeah, 13 years now. And we're overdue by several years. And it doesn't appear that we're going to see reauthorization anytime soon. So this is one of those places where the department, in theory, would be looking to Congress for some clarification, but they're not going to get any clarification from Congress on this.
Okay. Well, what kinds of evidence or data would higher ed institutions need to have on hand to demonstrate regular and substantive interaction in online courses?
Well, let's see, how about if I do my two parts and you want to do your two parts?
Sure.
Van, and so let's see, so for the interaction part of it, that I think again, it's showing that, I'm going to kind of jump into the regular as well, but it's showing that you have things that are initiated by the instructor for much of this, that you're able to show that you have either lectures happening, or it's synchronous or asynchronous, that you have things going out, that you have assessments, that you have these sorts of things, so that there are these sorts of active assessments, that you have these sorts of things that are going out. In terms of the instructor part of it, that again, thankfully that we're going back to the accrediting agency with that, and so it probably would be good to show that if you have any questions about something, if you're using a instructional model that is out of the norm, you probably want to show that you've had some discussion about that with your accrediting agency, or that you can point to any sorts of guidance by your accrediting agency that says, if you're doing ABC, we consider that to be acceptable. So have something where you can show that you're following your institutional accrediting agency's guidelines.
And then I would add, you're going to want to show that you have certain types of instructor-initiated activities. So if one of the ways in which you are defining substantive interaction is with assessing or providing feedback on a student's coursework, you want to be able to show, here's when and how our faculty provided feedback and assessment on a student's coursework. If one of the ways that you're ticking off that substantive interaction box is facilitating group discussions regarding the content of a course or competency, you're going to want to show, here's examples of when our faculty were engaged in that. And then I think your syllabus is a good piece of evidence of showing the regular piece of that. Here's how we can show that this is happening on a regular basis. Certainly some of the LMS providers, I think, are starting to look into ways in which LMS data could potentially be used, especially If you are conducting interactions through your learning management system. And so there might be some opportunities there that you could talk to your LMS provider about what scraping that data might look like if you were audited by the Office of Inspector General.
And something that should have said that if you undergo a financial aid review, which happens every so often, a financial aid review is the official term, we often call it a financial aid audit, that typically what they do, that they'll come in and that they'll come up and that they'll create their own subsample of courses, and that they'll go in and that they'll see, does that course have a syllabus? You know, what sort of interaction? Who is the faculty for those courses? And that they'll do some of that, so that they're not just relying that, oh, you presented this package of here's what we did, but they'll go in and actually, if they're interested in this question, that they'll actually go in and then check to see how you've done it, and then they'll also look at how you've talked about the course, because if you are talking about it as a self-paced course, in how you're doing it, that you're not keen on the term self-paced, because what you're saying is that self-paced means is that it's not on a regular and predictable in a regular and predictable way, and get it, which ends in a problem for CBE. But we're trying to figure out ways to help out our CBE friends so that they have at least some touch points with people on a regular basis, so that they make sure that they're following up and making sure that the students are progressing.
Van had mentioned the institution's LMS, and so we have a question here. Given the power of some of the LMS adaptive technologies, do you have any recommendations you would give for instructional designers?
Russ, I'm going to let you start with that one, since you were a part of that entire subcommittee's conversation around adaptive technology.
Yeah. and the unfortunate thing about that is that we worked really hard in the subcommittee, in the regular part, where there's actually two parts to the regular part, and one part was about we had in mind the classic type of online course that fits into the semester, and that you have a syllabus, and that you know that on the 3rd, 8th, 12th, and final week that you're going to have an assessment, and that we'll have lectures that'll come out every Monday, and that you'll do that. That was the first part that of that definition. In regular, that you provide the opportunity for substantive interactions with the student on a predictable and scheduled basis. And so had that. Then we had a second part of it where we had in mind things like adaptive learning and competency-based education, where what you were doing is monitoring the student's academic engagement and monitoring the student's academic engagement and success, and ensuring that an instructor is responsible for promptly and proactively engaging in substantive interaction with the student when needed or upon request, that you had that there. And so this is really getting at your question, is that that part of it is that really for instructional designers, you want to make sure that you're taking care of both of those parts, that you have something where if you have an adaptive learning student, that you're not just leaving them out on their own. So that you're doing a couple things. One is that you are using the analytics, you are using the processes in there, and that you're seeing, oh, Van has gone off the deep end, he's not getting it. I, as a faculty, or whoever is the instructional assistants, or whoever, that they know to get in when certain things happen. Or the student can just say, I don't get it. They raise their hand, that you have help for them in a fairly quick fashion, that they have those sorts of things in there. So you want to point the instructional designers to that part. The problem we ran into was, remember that we were thinking of two different types of pedagogical models that you have there. One, the more traditional, and one, the sort of non-regular sort of things that you see in CBE and adaptive learning. And we had an or between those two sections, thinking about one or the other. And then the committee above us put an "and" in there. So if you are doing something that is either CBE or adaptive learning, you need to point the instructional designers up to the first part of that and say that there needs to be something that's predictable and scheduled. And so what we've talked to a few people in the CBE world that they're pointing to, there's been allowances for things like office hours or having other sorts of things that are regular touch points of some sort with them that are on a predictable basis, that you're going to follow up with them. And as Van said before, that the students have to know that they're there. They don't have to avail themselves of all of those. So what would you add to that, Van?
I wouldn't add anything to that. I think that that is spot on. And again, this was something that the subcommittee tried to stave off by having it being one or the other. And unfortunately, the larger committee opted to make sure that both of those things took place rather than one or the other.
Great. Well, we have a question here about an institution that passed a policy that says, in part, that the faculty will inform students how and when regular and substantive interactions will occur as written in the course syllabus. Will this statement cover the regular and scheduled expectation of the regulation?
I think it would, as long as you are also fulfilling that substantive part of the definition, because remember, it's not just what you're doing, but it's not just when you're doing it, but it's what you're doing as well. So I think that that would be a good policy to have.
Yeah, policy is good evidence that there's the expectation. Mm-hmm. You have to also show up. You also have to show faculty development. How do they do that? And then if they go through and look at sample some of the courses, did they actually do it?
Let's see, the next question. Do we have any information from accrediting bodies as to how they are going to define other instructional methods approved by the institution's accreditor?
No.
I was going to say, I'm not aware. I'm not aware that accreditors yet.
To the point. Okay.
What is that? Did you? Sorry, Ben. Did you have anything else to add to that?
No, I was about to say no as well.
Okay, we have a question.
I think they are still dealing with all of these, in terms of there are several touch points for the accreditors, and I think they're still dealing with what sort of guidance that they want to give. But we've not seen guidance on this or a few other points.
So we have a question. I think they'd like to go back to the matrix. Megan, can we go back to the matrix? Slide 9. Thank you. So the question is regarding the explicit reliance on accreditor approval for instructors. And the question they're asking is, can you explain more fully what that might look like operationally?
Yeah, and it's not accreditor approval for each and every instructor. So I understand that my language may have indicated that. So please, no jumping off of tall buildings if that's what you were thinking. But you should have in mind, if you're doing something that's a pretty traditional type of thing where you have an instructor who gets up there and that they do the lecture and that they do the assessment and all that sort of thing, you should be fine. But once you start getting into other sorts of things, I think there is pretty explicit approval over the years of a model that uses GAs or TAs. I think that you can find that within the accreditor rules fairly easily. What happened with WGU is that they're starting to use this unbundled sort of model, and you're seeing some different institutions that are doing that, where you have a group of faculty who create the content, a group of faculty who offer the content, a group of faculty who are doing the assessment, or instructors, or whatever you want to call them, do the assessment. And so once you start getting to things where you're doing that sort of unbundling or doing something that is fairly non-traditional, you probably want to make sure that you have a discussion about that model, not about the particular individuals, to make sure that your that your accrediting agency is on top of that, and that they are aware of it, and that they've approved that model for how you're going to do it.
Well, this is a good one, Russ. This will be right up some recent discussions that we've had in terms of Veterans Affairs. Are the definitions here for regular and substantive interactions also applicable for Veterans Affairs? Anything to highlight in relation to Veterans Affairs with regards to this information?
Well, remember, this is for Title IV. So Title IV Title IV is the regular Department of Education, federal financial aid, Pell Grants, the loans, those sorts of things that all come from Department of Ed. The Veterans Administration has its own set of rules for what happens there, but there also is a lot of reliance in terms of on the Department of Ed sort of rules for these sorts of things, that you have that as well. I didn't prepare or didn't think about, for this particular issue, if there's anything that the veterans are doing in terms of this sort of interaction, but I'm not thinking of anything. Right? I know you've been doing a lot lately with the veterans. Cheryl, are you thinking of anything?
I have not seen that specifically, but I do have some communications that we've been doing to try to learn more about some of these similar. There seems to be some overlap, but I don't know if this is one of those items. But I think that this is something that WCET is going to be writing about in the very near future anyway, in terms of what are these overlaps that our institutions, our members may be interested in seeing.
And typically your courses are not divvied up by, these courses are just for veterans and people in the GI, right, taking care of GI Bill, that you have the mix. And so it's, you have to take care of both sides. So
it's just interesting to see how many similarities there are when you see some of these requirements lately. So it'll be interesting to dive into that more. Van, this was related to something that you had said just a few minutes ago, that if a course is considered a correspondence course, then the same amount of financial aid would not be available to students. Is some financial aid, in fact, available to students in correspondence courses?
So I'm going to actually throw this over to Russ, because now I'm rethinking whether or not I misspoke.
I don't remember the exact rules, but there is the ability for a few correspondence courses to be included into a student's package. And I have to admit that I don't remember the exact rules on that. But I think if you have a student who's taking 12 hours and those are at a distance, and then a correspondence course is included, that there are ways where that could be included in the financial aid package. If I'm wrong on that, I apologize. That's my recollection. I think one of the things that we were really pointing into is that if you have, and this is what happened with WGU, sorry to keep picking on them, but they were the ones that got picked on by the department, that they had, the vast bulk of their courses were declared correspondence courses, and so their whole program was declared as not being in compliance. But I think there is a way to get a few in, but we could try to see if we could find what that rule is.
And that's my recollection as well, Russ, and that this actually was one of the areas where we saw some change in the rules within the last 12 months. But we'll get some clarification.
So we have a question here. Does real-time remote courses fall into distance education? And if so, will another metric need to be evidence for regular and substantive engagement in addition to the real-time component?
Well, if we look at the beginning of the definition of distance education, here's the beginning of the definition. Education that uses one or more of the technologies listed, and that includes internet, one- and two-way transmissions, audio conferencing, and other media. One or two of the distance education that uses one or more of the technologies listed to deliver instruction to students who are separated from the instructor or instructors, and to support regular and substantive interaction between students and the instructor or instructors, either synchronously or asynchronously. So yes, real-time remote courses, I think the department would, even though they're synchronous, they're using technology because the instructor and the students are separated. So I do think that they would probably be considered by the department as distance education courses.
Yeah, and I think that's right. There may still be some that may be in the waivers that were given, but I think even that is getting more tenuous because we're seeing accrediting agencies like the Higher Learning Commission and some others where they're just declaring that, okay, because really what the waivers were to the accrediting agencies to allow them to waive some of these requirements, and they're saying that no, we are expecting that even if it was a course that got converted to remote instruction and you're starting the fall term, you had enough time that really is a distance ed course at this point, that it's a synchronous course that you've really now made it a distance ed course, and that's how they're looking at it. I think you would have a hard time if your accreditor is looking at it that way. They'll have a hard time arguing otherwise.
So let's see. So are we talking about only credit courses for regular and substantive interaction, or do workforce, CTE, and non-credit, et cetera, all have to follow these regular and substantive guidelines?
This is all for, these rules, again, are all for Title IV federal financial aid rules. So if the interest in compliance is keeping your courses and your institution in compliance for student eligibility for federal financial aid. If you're not offering federal financial aid through the Department of Education for non-credit courses or other things, then this is not a requirement for that.
So we have a question here. If you all would please review one more time the new tracking and invention component.
Tracking and invention component.
I think it's referring to that regular interaction definition. So it's both of those pieces. It is the providing opportunity for substantive interaction on a predictable and regular basis, and then promptly and proactively engaging in substantive interaction when a student needs, on the basis of monitoring or upon the request by the student. Unfortunately, this is one of those areas where the department has not provided any explanation. So what they mean by monitoring, it'd be really great if I could say, you do this, and this, and it's considered to be monitoring and you're golden, but the department hasn't provided that much clarity yet. So what the department means by monitoring and what sort of technologies might be applicable here is something that the department hasn't issued guidance on.
We haven't come up with one of our favorite terms is coming up with a defensible response to some of these sorts of things. And so we'll play that again. And sorry, some of you have heard this before, but for a lot of this that you have to do your best with the wording the way it is now. We will do our best to try to get more guidance for you, because it's also always helpful for you to know what you're supposed to be doing in order to comply. And we really believe in that. And so we'll work on that part of it. But when we're talking about defensible response is that, project forward that you're sitting across from a creditor, you're sitting across from this financial aid review person, and they're saying, well, how did you show that you were monitoring the student's academic engagement and that you were responding promptly if something was going south there with that. And so you need to have an answer for that. And so if the answer is, well, we just left it all up to all the faculty and they did what they do, that's probably not a very defensible thing. But if you could show that one of the things that we do is that we have analytics and that we're able to show that we have this, or we don't have analytics, or we're another institution, we say, we don't have analytics, but what we do is that we're very keen in our faculty development. In that what we do is that we say that, faculty really have to be responding and have to be following their students, or we have policies. All of these things, it's not do all of these, but it's doing things where you're able to show back and have bits of evidence where you show that you thought about this and are trying to enact that and trying to make sure that you've talked to your faculty, that it's really happening, and that you've done things so that the faculty aren't just putting up all, because if they're, and I've seen these in courses that at quality institutions, they'll put up 15 lectures at the start of the semester, and then kind of come back in week 4 and see if there's any questions. Well, I think you may have problems with that. If it's one course, that's one thing. If it's 150 courses, you get problems.
And I would just add one of those other terms that we haven't gotten clarity on yet from the department that I'm surprised hasn't come up yet, but I can guarantee you it will probably come up at your institution, is direct instruction.
Yeah.
And in this case, the department has actually said, and I love this, they've said that they believe that defining direct instruction is beyond their purview, even though direct instruction is actually in the definition of regular and substantive interaction. So don't be surprised if there is, I know it's frustrating that there is ambiguity with how some of these terms that are really important are being defined. Sometimes I think it's because the department just hasn't thought that through. And sometimes it's because the department has decided that they don't want to provide. And then it really does become, can you make a reasonable case that you have done everything that you can to comply with the regulation? And it's a defensible case.
Yeah, and in their defense, that they have to stay away from quality by law. Do that, and so this may be one of those areas where they, and I wish they'd be more explicit about it, they're punting to the accreditors, and then we know to turn to the accreditors. So.
Well, before we turn this back over to Megan, excuse me, do you all have any final statements that you'd like to share with our audience today?
Van?
Final guidance.
I would just really reiterate what Russ just said, that this is about defensible positions. You need to show that you have policies in place. You need to show that your faculty have been trained on those policies so that they actually, that not only do you have the policy, but you have done your due diligence in making sure that faculty know and understand the policy. And then you need to be able to show that those policies are being implemented by faculty. And it really is about having that sort of defensible position of, here's the policy, here's how we're training on the policy, and here's how we're acting on the policy.
Remember at the start, I divorced this from good pedagogical, andragogical, since it's late, right? Pedagogical practices in all this. I sort of divorce those, and that always annoys people when I do that. But it's helpful in thinking about how you want to do this. So, but let me bring it back and say, actually, if you are doing good practices in terms of what you should be doing with distance education, you probably hit, if not all of them, almost every one of these sorts of things. And so, do be thinking about that in terms of, making sure that you're supporting students and letting them know on a predictable basis, what's going to happen in the course. All sorts of things that you probably will hit most of these anyway.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that. And I think now it's time to give it back to Megan.
Great, thank you all. I just want to run through a few things that are taking place at WCET. So thank you so much for being part of this series. And don't forget that the third series is coming up. And then at the end of the month, on May 26th, we'll have a closer conversation where you can ask all of your policy-related questions to our experts, Cheryl, Van, and Russ. So make sure to save that date. And we've been rolling out videos every single day featuring an OER expert from around the world. So those are really interesting. Make sure to watch those. They're 5 to 7 minutes long. Our Leadership Summit, the second topic, is coming up May 4th. So be sure to register for that if you haven't already. And then You can also gain access to the April 6 content. Save the date for our one-day virtual meeting, which is November 2nd. Hopefully that will be our last virtual meeting and we'll be face-to-face the following year. And just a shout out to our WCET sponsors and our supporting members that underwrite our events and programs here at WCET. So thank you so much, Cheryl, Van, and Russ. Appreciate your guidance, and thank you all for your excellent questions and participation. Stay well.